Do today's automobile sales numbers really have anything to do with the sell-off in the stock market? We've assembled a taking stock think tank with us. We have Stephen Spear. He's a senior lecturer at MIT's Sloan School of Management. He is also the author of the book, The High Velocity Edge. Also with us, an expert, George Magliano. He's the director of North American Automotive Research at IHS Automotive. And we have Michelle Krebs, senior editor and analyst at Edmunds.com. Michelle Krebs, the numbers today from GM and Ford, not exactly what analysts were estimating, but is it really as bad as all that, or is it all to chalk up to promotions and the lack of financing?
Well, I don't think it's as grim as we might think. Yes, they were down, and May is usually a really strong month, but we've got major inventory problems, and definitely pricing is making a difference. We aren't seeing the incentives we saw, and prices have gone up. But we think that this is going to work itself out. We've been at 12.9 since the beginning of the year. For the rest of the year, we expect 12.9, and we even think there's some upside potential if the inventory gets under control.
All right, Michelle's talking about 12.9 million units being sold this year, George. Do you concur? Do you think that that's likely?
We're at 12.7, which
12.7, so maybe we'll split the difference, right?
12.8
maybe.
Ourselves over a couple 100,000 units.
Do you agree with what Michelle is saying, that maybe this is going to work itself out and we have an inventory issue to deal with because of what happened in Japan? And also, as she said, promotions. We don't see the kind of promotions that would normally drive people into the showrooms.
Most definitely. We've got another couple of months we're going to have to ride this out. We estimate about 75 to 85% of this downturn in the month was attributable to the lack of inventory and attributable to the problems in Japan and now with the assembly plants for Toyota and Honda in North America. Lack of inventory on small fuel-efficient cars, which people want right now. There's plenty of trucks around, and so what people want to buy with gasoline prices around $4 a gallon wasn't in the showrooms.
So they didn't get the choice.
Yeah.
Stephen Spear, what about the automobile companies themselves? Have they been able to adapt to this changing landscape of higher gasoline prices?
Yeah, Pimm, it's a great question. So, you know, the other guests you have really are talking about the size of the pie, and then there's also the question of how big are the slices to each of the people at the table. And so what wins in the auto industry is speed. You know, how quickly can you get new product to market? How quickly can you adapt to a very changing dynamic environment? And so the real issue here for Toyota, Ford, GM, and all these others is about how quickly they can shift their production capacity, whatever's available, tsunami or not, to what the market actually demands.
Do you think that they can do that? I mean, have they revamped their production capability and streamlined their management to the point where they can accomplish this, Stephen Spear?
Well, I think what we're going to see is the folks who were really agile in the past are going to show a tremendous agility going forward. Now, admittedly, you know, folks like Toyota and Honda are terribly inconvenienced by the consequence of earthquake and tsunami. So that gives them a big handicap and a head start to GM, Ford, and Chrysler. But we have to see if those folks, one, can take advantage of the head start, and two, even with the head start, they can maintain the speed, agility, and velocity to stay ahead.
Michelle Krebs, talk a little bit, if you can, about Ford and its strategy. Alan Mulally, the chief executive of Ford, put a lot of faith in the Ford Fusion and being able to produce the right kind of fuel-efficient cars for the U.S. market. Are they doing a good job?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, speaking of the agility, I think that GM and Ford in particular have come out with cars that are ready to capitalize on this situation with Toyota and Honda. You look at General Motors with the Chevrolet Cruze. It was the best-selling small car this month. Ford Focus was right behind it. Ford Fiesta. Those are all new products that these companies that were once known as truck companies are now becoming real car companies with very competitive vehicles.
George, does that make sense? So we've got these companies producing the vehicles that people really want. We'll get through the inventory glut of things like small trucks, for example?
They've not only shifted to smaller cars, smaller crossovers, and if you look at even the bigger trucks, you've got very fuel-efficient engines coming down here. And so the answer is technology and product, and they're moving very quickly. The question is, how quickly can you move? There's certain people who are going to wait around for Toyotas and Hondas, and that's, you know, that's the bottom line here. And so there's going to be people that are going to sit on the sidelines and wait till the plants get back up and the vehicles get back into the showroom. So it's a temporary downturn in sales, but we will come back to the natural running rate that
we're going to continue. Michelle Krebs, tell us about what's happening with the Korean automobile makers, Hyundai as well as Kia. Are they taking market share in the United States?
Oh, they sure are. They have started taking advantage of the Japanese, specifically Toyota, last year through the recall, and they have, put the pedal to the metal during this situation. If you add Hyundai's and Kia's sales for the month of May, they outsold Honda and were within about 1,000 units of Toyota. So they are to be reckoned with.
Stephen Spear, the manufacturing prowess of the Korean companies, is this something that American automobile makers have to be concerned with right now?
For sure. My interaction with Toyota many years ago, when I asked them if they were satisfied because they had gained so much on the American and European makers, they said, yeah, but we got to worry about the Koreans right now.
And is that going to continue in terms of what, importing cars from Korea or establishing manufacturing facilities here in the U.S.?
So here's the thing which is real interesting about the Koreans. They're taking a strategy on high-velocity learning, which is quite similar to what Honda and Toyota took many years ago, which is start with smaller cars, stripped down, well, not so much stripped down as they used to be, but smaller, simpler cars, more affordable. Build competency in that simpler product, simpler part of the market, and crawl your way up. And that obviously proved enormously successful for Toyota, which then moved into the Lexus brand and proved enormously successful for Honda. And actually sets up a very interesting strategic contrast with the American automakers, which abandoned the small, simple part of the market many years ago and are having to relearn it now.
George Magliano, comment on this topic of automobile companies that abandon markets and then try to relaunch themselves. I'm thinking particularly of Volkswagen in the United States. They are looking to replicate their global success, but in a market that they've really had big challenges in.
Well, they've reorientated themselves. They've opened up more plants in North America. They're coming out with new products. They're coming out with new products at a substantially lower price, but with more content on them. Okay, the new Passat is like $7,000 cheaper than the one it replaced. They started with the Jetta. That's cheaper than the old Jetta. And really, they're offering a lot for the money, and they're probably positioned very well in the world of the future, where people are going to put a higher premium on value. All right, and maybe looking for luxury or European performance and style at a lower price than, say, a BMW or a Mercedes. They still have issues with the quality perception. 10 years ago, they really hurt themselves. And that's one of the things that maybe is going to hold them back from they have really lofty sales goals for the United States here for both VW and Audi. And Audi probably should do very well. But VW, maybe the main line, they've got some quality issues to overcome over the long haul.
Michelle Krebs, talk a little bit about the luxury automobile makers, specifically BMW, Mercedes, as well as Audi. BMW coming out and reporting today their sales up in the United States.
Well, that's been a really interesting horse race to watch. This month, BMW beat Mercedes. Lexus has kind of been floundering, and we're seeing the Japanese automakers, of course, with their luxury brands, most of which the vehicles are made in Japan, are struggling. The other interesting one, whether you consider them luxury or not, is Buick is coming on strong with only a couple of models. Lincoln is still struggling. It's just a really interesting race. It's switching around all the time, and it's really a fun one to watch.
Stephen Spear, what about U.S. companies and their outside the U.S. businesses? I'm thinking specifically of General Motors and their operations in China. Is that still a good spot for the automakers?
Well, again, the issue about China is you have an enormous market with a lot of people who don't yet drive cars and aspire to do so. The question is, are you bringing product into that market which is affordable? And again, the evidence is pretty strong that Toyota, Honda, the Korean makers have succeeded beautifully by coming in at the lowest end of the market and learning their way up. And again, the question is, can the Americans find that niche, and not that niche, but that very big sweet spot, and crawl their way up as that economy develops and matures?
George Magliano, flex fuel vehicles, hybrid vehicles, as well as electric automobiles, are they gaining traction, to be someone that uses a bad pun?
It's been a slow struggle for them. I think at the highest level, they were about 3%, the hybrid electric vehicles of the market. They're the wave of the future, but the technology isn't there, and even with the high price of gasoline, you're still paying a premium. But you realize we're going to have higher fuel economy standards. It's going to start off at 36 miles per gallon, and we're going to go higher. And the only way we're going to hit those is by having these vehicles in the fleet. It's not just the small vehicles. You're going to have the electric vehicles, the hybrids. You're going to have to use alternative fuels out there. There's no way around it to get to the numbers that are being tossed around out here. 65 miles per gallon eventually, or something in that.
Well, you and I'll go for a drive in one.
Yeah,
how's
like that?
George Magliano, thank you very much. Michelle Krebs, as well as Steven Spear. Appreciate your insights.